Oral piercing aftercare instructions coming up next, so stick around. For those that don't know who I am, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So when I talk to you about these things, I'm talking to you at a level of expertise as somebody that's been in the business for well over 25 years. So what's the purpose of this video? The purpose of this video is basically for my clientele. Because of COVID-19 and trying to limit the amount of contact that I have and that my clients have with other people, I'm no longer doing my aftercare instructions verbally like I normally do. Hopefully, once all this is over, we'll go back to that. But in the meantime, this video is to substitute me sitting down and talking to you about the piercing. In this one, we're going to cover oral piercings. If you've gotten a piercing that protrudes from the mouth, you also want to check out the other one, which is your general piercing aftercare instructions video. It'll be linked in the description if you haven't watched it already. Because in essence, you're taking care of a piercing two ways. One for the outside, one for the inside. What this does is it covers the inside. Of course, if you have a tongue piercing, all you have to worry about is this one. You would have gotten one of these. Well, one of these. On the back of this, it's going to list the size of the jewelry, the type of jewelry, what the material is, who did it, which probably is me, and the date of when the piercing was done in your average healing time. The thing about average healing times, they are not a set in stone situation. It can vary greatly from person to person. There's a lot of things that go into whether or not a piercing heals in a certain amount of time or not. They're just a general minimum requirement. So in essence, you want to take care of that piercing until it is healed, but you want to, even if it seems like it's healed 2-3 weeks in, it's a good idea to extend that for the full length of the average healing time. If you open up the flap, the front one, you're going to see a shopping list there. The shopping list is going to be this. First thing, Biotene Antiseptic Mouthwash. You can find it at Walgreens, Walmart, Target, Hy-Vee, in Walmart. Did I say Walmart? I think I said Walmart twice. Basically, it'll be next to all the other mouthwashes, and what it is an alcohol-free antiseptic mouthwash. Additionally, you can use the sterile saline spray like nail meds to do rinses. However, it can sometimes be a little costly. So a cheaper alternative is to actually mix up a saltwater rinse for you to do. Basically what you want to have for that is distilled water and sea salt. You can find the sea salt in the baked goods aisle of any good grocery store. It is best to get as natural as possible in iodized or non-iodized, though there's really a minor difference between the two. Now, with the Biotene, I want you to rinse at least twice daily for roughly about 30 seconds. I generally suggest working in your daily routine. Do it once in the morning and once at night. With the saline, basically, if you're using the spray, just pour it directly or spray it directly into a cup, rinse with it. If you're going to mix it up, you take a cup of the distilled water. When I say cup, I mean a measured cup, 8 ounces of distilled water. Put it in the microwave, heat it up at the same period of time you would if you were warming up coffee. Not boiling hot, just comfortably warm. Think about the temperature of a comfortable bath. Drop in 1/8 of a teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, let it dissolve. It'll taste about as salty as your own tears. If it tastes saltier than that, you put too much salt in. Redo it again. Then you're going to take that and you're going to rinse off and on for anywhere from roughly about a minute to 2 minutes, a little bit longer. Generally listen to your body. If it feels good to do it, I suggest doing it at least twice daily. Feels good to do it maybe 3-4 times a day. Do it 3 or 4 times a day. Just make sure you rinse with some tap water afterwards to get that salt out of there. What it's going to do is it helps you draw waste and debris from the piercing. It increases the circulation and the flow of oxygen, which can help with healing. The salt actually contains minerals and nutrients that are helpful in your body's production of skin cells. It also helps with inflammation. It'll help reduce the swelling. And it really helps to soothe it. With oral piercings, because we talk and we eat and we do a lot of things with our mouths, they tend to swell a lot. and they also tend to be more sensitive than other piercings. Doing those saltwater rinses can help a lot to kind of take the edge off everything and make it feel good. Swelling is the worst part of any oral piercing. To cut down on the amount of swelling you see is you need to cut down your intake of tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, hot and spicy foods, things that are extremely warm in temperature, or anything that may agitate your mouth. Generally, if it hurts to ingest it or burns to ingest it, you shouldn't be ingesting it. Also, because people always ask, yes, that does include vaping. Vaping is just as harsh as cigarettes. Sorry, kids, to burst your bubble. Food-wise, cold items are really great, especially in that first 24 to 28 hours. Ice chips, ice cream, it's an excuse to just hit the frozen treats. Food, smoothies are great. Sports shakes, not drinks, shakes. Nutritional shakes, baby food, applesauce, in yogurt. Yogurt is additionally helpful because it will cut down the likelihood of thrush. Thrush is a condition where you're going to break down the natural enzymes and bacteria that live in your mouth. You get an outbreak of a fungi called thrush. It'll coat your tongue with this cottage cheese-looking substance. It usually requires medical attention. The Aphidophilus in the cultured bacteria that are in yogurt can help reduce the likelihood of those things happening and creating that bacterial imbalance. The biggest thing is listen to your body. If it hurts to eat something or hurts to ingest something, don't do it. Once the swelling is subsided, you can slowly start to wean yourself onto solid foods. Stick with very simplistic things you can cut up into small pieces and shove directly back into your molars. Especially with tongue piercings, one of the most frustrating parts is learning how to move things around in your mouth without catching the barbell and impacting and or causing problems. So be cautious, be patient. At first, it's going to be extremely frustrating. Over time, it will get to the point where it's more natural to have that jewelry in your mouth than to not have it in your mouth. Cross-contamination prevention. Common sense stuff. There's some additional things that you need to do with oral piercings. No deep mouth kissing, oral contact, or sexual contact for a minimum of 8 weeks. You are more acceptable to STDs during oral sex, so if you switch partners, practice safe sex the way you're supposed to. Avoid sticking unclean objects in your mouth, pen caps, toothpicks, etc. It's a good idea to start out with a clean, fresh, brand new toothbrush, or at least a head if you have one of those electric ones. Also, do not store your toothbrush in your bathroom. Store it in an airtight container and do it maybe in the kitchen or somewhere else where there's not a bunch of fecal matter. Do not share food items or utensils with other people. Make sure that your own utensils are clean on a regular basis. Do not handle the piercing. The only time you really have any contact with the piercing is when you're checking the tightness of balls. It's a good idea to do it on a regular basis, especially with tongue piercings because they can come loose. Make sure you wash your hands thoroughly before you do so, and it's not a bad idea to wear gloves if you have them laying around the house. But yes, do not stick unclean fingers inside your mouth. It's gross. Jewelry. Pretty much every oral piercing is pierced with a piece of jewelry that's too large. The reason why we do this is to allow for the inflammation and swelling. Once that swelling goes down, you can go to a shorter barbell or labret stud. I generally suggest with tongue piercings that you downsize them roughly a week to 10 days. If you were pierced by me, I generally sell the replacement barbells for $15 a piece. Of course, I never change them. With other piercings, labret studs, and etc., anything that's protruding from the mouth, leaving the longer jewelry in a little bit longer is generally a good idea. The problem with changing the jewelry too quickly with those style of piercings is often it will cause trauma, it'll begin to swell again, and then you're back at the studio to have a longer piece put back in. So usually I would suggest giving it at least a month unless you're having a situation where it's catching on teeth and it's catching on other things and actually causing trauma to the piercing. Get a hold of me if you're having issues like that. The other thing is if the jewelry is too short, it starts to impact into the area, contact me immediately and get in to have a longer post put in. With oral piercings, your body generates tissue much more rapidly than it does on other piercings. I've had clients that have had the piercing for 10 or 15 years, took it out for a couple hours for a job interview or an appointment or something, and had problems getting it back in. It is definitely a piece of jewelry that once you put it in there, you do want to leave it in there indefinitely. I never charge exchange jewelry, regardless of where it comes from. I'll also run through my autoclave and sterilize it as long as it's proper size, proper material, and it's appropriate for that particular piercing. When it comes to picking out jewelry, use some common sense. If it's got sharp edges, points, things dangling off of it, or it seems really heavy, it's probably going to be really uncomfortable and constantly get caught and snagged on everything it comes in contact with. Usually, for day-to-day wear, long-term wear especially, the more simplistic the jewelry is, the better off you're going to be. If you see a piece of jewelry, you're not quite sure if it's going to work or not, don't hesitate to get a hold of me, or if I didn't pierce it, your piercer. Generally, we're happy to give you advice regardless of where you're spending your money. Also, if you go to my website, AxiomPiercing.com, I list roughly 4 to 5 different places I suggest buying jewelry online. When you're buying jewelry online, one of the things you definitely want to look for is whether or not the actual manufacturer of that jewelry is listed. If it's just like the name of the site you're on, chances are it's mass-produced, it's of lower quality, and may not even be implant-grade materials. But when in doubt, contact your piercer or contact me. That brings us to infections. Infections are very infrequent. Something creeps up and doesn't seem right to you, get in contact with me immediately or seek professional medical advice. If I didn't pierce you, get a hold of your piercer as soon as possible. The 2 worst things you can do if you think you have an infection is put off getting taken care of. It's just going to get worse, possibly turn systematic and spread. It'd be much more difficult to correct the longer you put off getting taken care of. The second one is removal of the jewelry. If you take the jewelry out and it is in fact infected, the problem is how your body heals infections and what happens when you remove that jewelry. Your body heals infections by pushing infected tissue and fluids out through the wound while it replaces with healthy tissue below. If you take the jewelry out, which is the only thing keeping those 2 holes open, it can trap that infected tissue and fluids inside your body, leading to one of 2 events. The worst one being it turns into an inward traveling infection, begins actually spreading to other tissue, if left untreated, can possibly turn septic or cause permanent tissue loss. More commonly, your body will isolate it by developing a cyst or an abscess, and then slowly, very painfully attempt to push it to the surface. Both cases, you're going to need medical treatment, and it's probably going to involve having it lanced and drained. If you leave the jewelry in, it allows a way for your body to expel the infection. It also usually makes it a little bit more treatable. Now, normal reactions with tongue piercings would be to see any oral piercing. You see a white ring of tissue form around the inside of your mouth. That is normal. It's scar tissue. It's often opaque or white. It's also not uncommon to see kind of this yellowish, stringy stuff that hangs off. Looks about like snot. What that is it's the discharge you would normally have on the outside. But because it's inside your mouth, it can't harden, so it forms in these long strings. Just leave it be. It'll come off the next time you rinse. Otherwise, don't be concerned. Another thing that's really common with oral piercings is nesting. And nesting is where the softer tissue will kind of form kind of an indentation where the jewelry sets. This is not something you should be concerned about unless it seems like it's swollen to the point where it's starting to exceed the length of the jewelry, or the tissue seems to be forming around the edge. Meaning, if you have a labrasa, if it's difficult to push it back in, you should seek a piercer as soon as possible because that tissue is starting to grow over it. The same thing with tongue piercings. With tongue piercings, basically, if it starts, the tissue seems to be over at least a quarter of the size of the ball, you should start to become concerned and have a piercer take a look at it. Other common reactions, see redness or discolorization, heat where it feels very inflamed or feverish. Also for it to be inflamed, inflammation. That usually lasts on most people anywhere from 2 to 5 days. It varies from person to person, and it depends on the piercing and where it's at. Some piercings take even longer, especially with the swelling, to start subsiding. It's not. The other thing is, it's not uncommon to see a tad bit of bleeding. Usually, it's kind of collects around the piercing holes. Most people don't even notice it. If you do, just leave it be. Let it do what it needs to do. It'll stop doing that when it doesn't need to do that anymore. Couple hints on any oral piercing is you're probably, with tongue piercings, you're going to see the worst of the swelling the next morning. With oral piercings like lip piercings, labret piercings, beauty marks, medusas, etc., you're generally going to see it sometimes a couple days in. Staying hydrated, drinking lots of cold liquids, gently sucking in ice. I'm not a doctor, but if you've ever had any issues with ibuprofen or any other inflammatory, over-the-counter anti-inflammatories, you can try that. The biggest thing is cold and staying hydrated, especially through the night when your body naturally dehydrates. The biggest thing is it's frustrating. Give it time. Eventually, it'll come to the point where it seems easier to have the distillery in than to have it out. Just stick with it. I know it's a pain in the ass. It will get better in most cases. And if it doesn't, see your piercer or see me. Contact me. So I think that pretty much covers a majority of it. If I've missed anything, please make a comment. If you are one of my clients and you feel like I've just brought up more questions, contact me. You have my telephone number on the care sheet, also my email address. Those are the two best places to get a hold of me generally, or you can try messaging me through Facebook, through the Axiom Body Piercing Facebook page. Everybody else, feel free to leave a comment. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. If you'd like to see more videos on body piercing and tattooing, hit the subscription and ring that notification bell so you're notified every single time we post something. If you are a liker of swag and merchandise, check out our merch store. The link is in the description. Various different t-shirts, designs, etc., tote bags, decals, tapestries, just about anything you can possibly imagine. And that money goes to support the channel and to support the studio and etc. Plus, it helps spread the word. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs by appointment in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Stay clean, stay safe, stay healthy, and wash your hands.